What is going on, everybody? I'm your boy, Fatal Mephisto. And today I'm going to be bringing you guys something a little different. Not going to be a rant video, even though my original take on this was going to be a rant video, but then I decided against it because I don't want to come off as a generic, genuine fanboy, because that's not what I'm doing here. What I'm here to do in this video is to once and for all explain to not only the people that watch this, but in general, how when you hear specific terminologies that are going around on the internet, like the one that's going to be the main topic of this video, there tends to be a lot of people who are very uneducated in the gaming scene that may not know exactly what this saying implies, what it means. It's a very, very vague statement. And the statement, of course, that I'm referring to, as you guys can see in the title, is Xbox has no games. This has been a saying now since pretty much basically Quantum Break came out, when games that came out first party wise were starting to see a shift to the PC side. And it's literally been said and touted for years now since then. And I kind of want to go ahead and elaborate on what they're actually saying compared to it actually being a false equivalency. So let's start off first and foremost with what the meaning is and why people say it. And the real reason why people say this is because two things. Either A, there isn't a game that they want or that they like that has come out from Xbox Game Studios over the last 4 or 5 years. Nothing that caught their attention. Therefore, that's another reason why people say it. The other reason is simply because they're looking for AAA games and they feel that Microsoft doesn't live up to that. Kind of similar to the first thing. As a bonus one for you guys, though, because I only heard this a few times, but not as often as I hear people give me the whole entire AAA narrative quote, is the aspect that that their games go to PC now too. But that's another false equivalency, which is going to be set for another video in the later on down the line if this one actually does pretty well. And that one's going to be specifically related to the term console exclusive. That's another term that's been around in gaming since the dawn of video games pretty much, and most people tend to not really understand what the meaning actually implies. But without further ado, we're going to jump into this and we're going to go ahead and kind of explain to you why people shouldn't be using this terminology. They should be actually correcting themselves to inform others the right way of saying it. But before we get into that, though, let me go ahead and completely just debunk the entire aspect of that quote and why the quote is kind of meaningless without the actual narrative push that people like to push. So I'm not going to sit here and go through every single first-party title that has released in the last 10 years. I'm not going to do that. You can easily do that yourself. But I'm going to give you what has come out over the last 2 years, since 2020, since the pandemic happened, to kind of let you understand and break that mold to show that Microsoft does indeed or has released first-party games, therefore debunking that core aspect of Xbox has no games. So starting in 2020, we had Bleeding Edge, which was from Ninja Theory. Oh, and also too as well, before I do get into this list real quick, the terminology itself has nothing to do with how you feel about these games, your feeling towards these games. I don't care if you think they're dog shit or if you think they're garbage. That's irrelevant to the main point of what that terminology actually implies. So, Bleeding Edge, Gears Tactics, Forza Street, that was on ISO and Android, Minecraft Dungeons, we had that in 2020. We also had the PC release of Microsoft Flight Simulator, which has been an ongoing franchise on the PC side for well over 30 years now. Battletoads, we got that in August of 2020. We had the Forza Horizon 4. We had Gears 5. Actually, Gears 5 dropped in 2019, but there was the update and whatever the case may be the next gen upgrade version of it. We also had, let's see here, So yeah, we had the PC release of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and then in the following year we had Microsoft Flight Sim drop on consoles. We've had I'm not going to use Psychonauts 2 because that's kind of a cop-out answer, to be fair, because that game was well in development way before Microsoft acquired Double Fine Studio, so I'm not even going to mention previous games that these developers that Microsoft now owns that were already released and or coming out and slated for other platforms. Age of Empires 4, if you're into that series on PC, Forza Horizon 5, we had Halo Infinite, we had Grounded. Well, Grounded technically launched, I think it was 2020, if I'm not mistaken, or it might have been 2019. No, it was 2020. November 10th, 2020 is when the game preview version launched. Or July, sorry, my bad. July early access is when Grounded launched. And then, of course, games that we have seen get announced but have not seen really too much on it, such as Dusk Falls, Avowed, Everwild, Contraband, Fable, Forza Motorsports, Perfect Dark, Project Mara, Hellblade 2, State of Decay 3, and, of course, Outer Worlds 2, along with other projects, too, as well, that have not been announced yet, that are just still in the actual project form terms of project names. But regardless of that, though, I have listed off quite a bit of games that have come out between 2020 to current, and it completely dispels that whole entire aspect of how Xbox has no games. Now, the reason why people are still saying that to this day is due to the fact of the narrative that is hidden underneath the meaning that they're actually quoting. And what I mean by this is every time when you ask somebody, when you hear somebody say that and you ask them what they mean by that, they will literally tell you two things that I see the most common come out of people's mouths when I do question them on this. And that is, they don't have any games that I want, or they don't have any AAA games, which is essentially the same shit. But I'm going to throw it in there anyways because that seems to be a common reoccurrence. That automatically is an invalid assumption, or not even an assumption, but an invalid opinion, because all you're doing is attaching your opinion to a meaning that makes absolutely no sense. The meaning does make sense, but without explicitly stating your opinion within the actual context of what you are saying is very, very misleading. And I think the proper way of actually doing it is to sit there and say, hey, Xbox doesn't have any games that I want to play. Instead of just using the blatant generic term of Xbox has no games, which again is completely untrue. And when you start to see that come into fruition, you start to question yourself. And you start to ask yourself these questions is, man, like, do a lot of these things that the other side says in the console war hold any value? Well, that's pretty much basically what I'm going to be doing in this series of episodes. And I'll be doing the same thing for the PlayStation side as well. And, of course, Nintendo too as well. Because Nintendo, I've heard a lot of crazy stuff on that side. And a lot of that stuff holds weight. But there's also a lot of shenanigans that I've heard from the Xbox fan base too as well. In related to the Sony side too as well, that is just not true. But yeah, this is basically just going to be a series of videos, little small quirky videos, talking about some of the things that people are saying in the console war that legit make no sense, and kind of breaking that stuff down. So, I mean, obviously this saying is never going to disappear. Even if Microsoft gets in the rotation of releasing a game every quarter, it's not going to matter. This is actually still going to be a term. It's a term that we all have to accept. But just remember, though, that most, like 9 out of 10 times when people say this, they're saying it because they're not, like, they're saying it, but they have an opinion attached to it that you just can't see. But yeah, that's pretty much basically going to be the end of this video. So stay tuned for my next one in the foreseeable future when I talk about the whole entire terminology of console exclusives and how that has drastically altered the console war into people believing that Xbox is not, or that not Xbox, but any game that would be labeled as a console exclusive, that term no longer exists, even though that is 100% factually wrong. But yeah, I want to go ahead and just thank everybody for checking out this video. I'm just trying out some new stuff for you guys, man, to try to get some more content flowing on my channel. Because I know a lot of you guys don't really watch a lot of my gameplay or live streams that I do outside from my podcast or the Wolflow show that I do. But I want to try to do something different so I can kind of keep things fresh a little bit and and share your thoughts on whatever the case may be. But yeah. Let me know your thoughts down below if you like this video, if you don't like this video. I know I'm probably definitely going to get some dislikes and some comments down below of people calling me a fanboy and whatever the case may be. But again, the terminology for fanboy is definitely going to be another one of these videos I'm definitely going to do. In fact, probably after the actual console exclusive one, because people truly do not understand how to label somebody that. But it is what it is. All right, guys, I'm out this mall, and I'll definitely see you guys here on the next one, man. I'm out. Deuces.